Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. What's going on, everyone? Beautiful people. Happy Thursday. It's May 22nd, 2025. 22 is the magical number. Look it up if you feel guided to. So I definitely didn't want to miss out on channeling the energy today. So let's see what we got. I hope you're doing well. I know I say that repetitively every video, but I really do mean it. I really hope for all that are watching to be doing the best that they possibly can be. So when I say it, it's not just like, small talk. I mean it most sincerely. So let's get into it. Page of Cups. Offering to, is that the Queen of Wands back there? Indeed it is. Queen of Wands. Five of Pentacles. Oh, and then the Six of Cups. Interesting. So somebody's offering or offering either some admiration or an apology, flattery, but it could also be these little pieces of hair coming from. It could be, oh shoot, what was that? Oh, yeah, definitely a proposition with the Nine of Pentacles under there. But they're offering it with, I'm feeling like it's with like an oversaturation of nostalgia, or it's like, how can I say this? Like this over sense of sentimentality. Like this scenario where somebody coming back, like an ex, let's say, coming back and trying to like reignite a flame, or to spark chemistry or connection again. I say again because this Six of Cups implies that this could be a past relationship of some sort or past connection. And they're trying to like pull on the heartstrings of the like nostalgia for the past, like talking about old times. But more than that, because that seems pretty primitive, but there's some of that to it I'm sensing in one regard. But it's also like where it's faulty is someone's approaching. That's why it's the Knight of Cups, because the cup that they're bringing to the table, trying to evoke all of these like past sentiments and this like previous attachment, past attachments, is approaching someone as if they are still the same as when they were attached. You feel me? So it's like, let's go back to the ex. The ex example where somebody's coming back, let's say after, it could be months, it could be a year, it could be years, hell, it could be lifetimes with the Six of Cups. But how somebody is coming back, it's like they're pulling on triggers or sentiments from what they once knew of someone to be, or how they once knew to kind of get to someone, or to get to someone. How I want to say that? To seduce. There it is. Yeah, to seduce someone, or allure, entice, maybe. Any of those words could work depending on what we're talking about here. someone based on how they thought, how they used to be vulnerable, or used to be, like maybe gullible, or it's something different than that here though. Could be gullible, but vulnerable for sure. But what's the other word that I'm hearing? I feel like it's important, that word. Vulnerable, gullible. Damn, I can't hear it. I feel it though. But anyway, I'll fast forward. It's not really working out too well for the I almost said aggressor, but I want to find a better word, but maybe not, because there's some hint of manipulation that I'm sensing here. It's not a pure proposition. It's not sincere holistically. And like I said, the last message, I said how I've more or less perceive nights at times. There's always something in it for them, or some motive, for their advance, even if the advance itself is pure, or it isn't necessarily diabolical. There's usually still something in it. And in this case, somebody is looking for there to be some exchange of energy. But with the Five of Pentacles here, it's like they're looking to receive much more than either they're able or willing to give. But again, there is a failed attempt here, or a failed effort in some way, shape, or form. These efforts are falling short because, as I said, someone has calculated their proposition on who someone used to be, and how I feel like I gotta look up another word for, maybe naive. Okay, maybe naive is the word. Like how naive. I still want to look up another word for that, because it feels like an attack on the receiver of whatever this proposition is, and I don't mean for it to be, like almost innocent. Okay, innocent. Yeah, that could be it. That could definitely be it. Shoot, this is way, well, those are the weaker ones. Unjaded, unsuspicious. Yeah. Different words for naive would be innocent, sincere, hell, ignorant is one of them too, like. But anyway, this is the thing, is someone that is pretty much assuming that that someone is either still in that state, or still has that characteristic in some way, shape, or form, or that whatever it is that they say, or whatever sentiment or mind game, let's even say, or some type of psychological impression, or like psychological hell, could even be an attack with the Knight of Cups, could put them in that almost like submissive and vulnerable state, to be more susceptible to whatever it is they're offering, and whatever it is that they're looking to achieve or receive. But like I said, this showed itself, the Nine of Pentacles, because I've often described the Nine of Pentacles as someone who, from the outside looking in with the naked eye, can seem to be defenseless and vulnerable, simply because she's alone. She's a woman all by herself in the middle of a garden. Looks like there's no defense surrounding her. There's no security in sight. But anyone that knows the cards knows that that couldn't be more false. The security of the Nine of Pentacles is something that's been grounded from the inside. And as a matter of fact, there's an implication of spiritual affluence that is pretty much the precursor of how her garden has blossomed, you know, in whatever way, shape, and form it is, whether it's, you know, her self-esteem, her material stability, her prestige in the physical world, her her influence, whatever it is, and it speaks to the Queen of Wands, you know, in that nature. But it's like, what it's saying to me is that not only, it's the thing is, if this Knight of Cups is approaching the Knight of Cups is approaching the Nine of Pentacles, like she's some naive little girl that can be easily persuaded, then this tells me that somebody never really did see who this person was in the first place. So not only did they misjudge perhaps the book by its cover, or just weren't able to kind of read the energy, you know, couldn't really see the strength of the Nine of Pentacles for other jaded perspectives back then, whenever then was. Now that time has passed, maybe trials and tribulations have been incurred and encountered, could literally just be like, in the essence of time, maturity, you know, has evolved someone's perception of themselves and of life. And if that's all they thought of them at one point in time, then they absolutely have no clue what type of energy they are actually encountering with the Queen of Wands in real time, you know. So if somebody's plan is all based off of what they know of someone in the past, or what they or at least how potent or influential they feel they can be to influence someone to kind of backtrack, backpedal, you know, regress perhaps to, you know, a more submissive, subservient, perhaps naive state, trusting state at best, then there's no wonder that the Five of Pentacles is here, because if the plan was doomed from the start. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Because somebody was strong back when they didn't look strong, and now that someone has actually had some experience under their belt, like the Queen of Wands implies, has maybe been around the block, seen a few things, had an opportunity to see their power and influence manifest, and ultimately cultivate a courage within them, a high self-esteem, a bravery, even a fearlessness perhaps, and a very deep sense of passion. You know, like with the Queen of Wands, one thing for sure is that usually she's not willing to settle for what truly does enliven her. You know, it's like a Queen of Wands in the upright for the most part. Like, she can't even fool herself, you know, to settle for something less than what her I don't know, like her I'll say heart, even though it's not the Queen of Wands, but like what her senses truly desire, you know, like what really lights her fire. It's the equivalent to, you know, going on a date with someone with the Queen of Wands energy, or maybe even a blind date, or whatever the case may be, but trying to connect with someone and it's just really not there, you know, on a date. She's usually not the one that's going to push the issue to try it again, or force the issue for a connection that just, you know, just really isn't natural and organic, because there's something in her that just can't fake fire. You know, it's like, it just gotta be real. It had to be worth her time at this point, you know, at the Queen of Wands. Now the Nine of Pentacles, here it is, back in her day, might give somebody a couple chances to disappoint or a couple chances to prove themselves perhaps before ultimately shutting it down. But for the most part, like a Queen of Wands, doesn't values their the ignition of their passion, or at least being given the space and opportunity to keep their own passion going, their own fire roaring, so to speak, than to sacrifice it on account of pleasing someone else or being nice, you know what I mean, being sweet about it. It's like, no, it either is or it isn't, you know. So somebody, a Knight of Cups, approaching what they think is a Nine of Pentacles, but what really is a Queen of Wands, is bound to get their feelings hurt ultimately, and to be turned away quickly, because it's just a misalignment, you know. And it's almost offensive for someone in the Queen of Wands to, like, almost like an insult to her intelligence, or, you know, something, you know. There's an insult there. Like, this sounds shallow, but this is how I can convey it. Like, almost an insult to the mismatch of energy, like equivalent to someone that tries to talk to you out in the streets and you're looking at them like, this sounds bad, but this is the best way I can say it. But you consider yourself to be of a certain aesthetic, you know, a certain attractive aesthetic, which it doesn't, you understand why, you know, you might be, there might be an attraction other, you know, outside of you, or you might be approachable, alluring to be approached, or I'm trying to be diplomatic about it, but ultimately, you know, it'd be equivalent to like somebody that's homeless, like physically apparently vagrant, literally asking you for your number and, you know, if y'all could go out sometime. And it's like, go out sometime? Am I taking you or are you taking me? Like, no shade to anyone that's in that position, but I'm just saying, it's like, that's the equivalent here to what somebody's up against. Like, are you for real? Like, first of all, you're in no position to be extending yourself to do anything with me or for me. That's number one. But second of all, like, is it something about me that's giving off desperate, or that, you know, like something so, I don't know, like something so needy that I would really be open to this opportunity right here? It almost makes you like reflect on yourself and what type of vibes you must be giving off for somebody. And not that anybody that's, you know, on hard times shouldn't have the right to want true love, but I'm just saying priorities are definitely, you know, out of alignment in that case. But I'm just saying, like, to approach a queen such as the Queen of Wands with a proposition that just, you know, it just feels ridiculous, unmatched on so many different levels, is what I'm trying to convey here, that someone ultimately is up against in some way, shape, or form. You know, it may not actually be homeless or jobless or penniless or whatever the case may be, or sick or whatever. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but it's just still something that there's some like great disparity between someone and someone else, that it don't even make sense for someone to consider approaching with any proposition whatsoever in the state that they're currently in. There should be no expectation for open reception at all in this case. Yet someone still feels, you know, the Knight of Cups is saying that there's someone still is thoughtful about it, thoughtful enough to you know, actually consider making the advancement. But, you know, therein I have to consider, like, is this an act of delusion, or in one way, shape, or form, like someone, like I said, doesn't know what they're actually up against, or they think that they have much more to offer, or can at least glamour someone into thinking they have much more to offer than they actually do. Either way, as I said with the, you know, the vagrant and, you know, the proposition example, it just doesn't even make any sense at this point. It just doesn't. That's why I feel like there could be some level of, you know, I don't know, somebody definitely feels like they're their skills of seduction are strong enough. And they may be. They may have been, considering the past here, and that's what someone is reflecting on. And they may be to others, like someone, a knight approaching someone such as the Nine of Pentacles, who doesn't necessarily have any nobility or title, or maybe she's just a beautiful town girl, or whatever the case may be. In this case, that would be reasonable. Maybe she might be impressed by his shining armor, but the queen is not so easily moved. She's just not. So somebody is just, I don't know, like they're way out of their league in some way, shape, or form here. Oh, with the hangman, not the hangman. Shoot. And like I said, like now the Queen of Wands is easily offended at times, depending on the mood she's in and the aggression. So like I said, I ain't say that for nothing when I said it's almost like an offense to her. Like, how dare you? Like, how dare you approach me like I'm just that easy to swindle or that easy to seduce? Do you see who I am? Like, are you aware of what's standing in front of you? Like, that type of energy. And that might even, you might get cussed out is what I'm getting at. Like I said, feelings hurt in some way, shape, or form, or just what I was trying to say earlier about how the energy can't be faked. It just, the Queen of Wands might not even necessarily offend you with words. Like she may not necessarily, the Queen of Swords might cuss you out. She might say something to really hurt your feelings, but it'll be that sense of rejection that stings a bit, almost like fire in your bones, like, damn, like it almost kind of brings you back to reality. Like, what was I thinking? Like wakes you up. Like, what was I thinking? Why did I do that? Why did I think I have a chance? And it might spin you put you in a whole nother tailspin that you wouldn't have had otherwise if you had just, if you had just not approached at all. At least you might never know what the outcome may be, but you certainly wouldn't have your feelings might be more hurt by the definite rejection and dejection than if you just didn't approach at all, is what I'm trying to say. Because there's something about that Queen of Wands energy, like I was trying to like dumb it down to like a date, like you just know if the fire is there and if it's not. Like if somebody is feeling you, man or woman, really, if somebody is feeling you and if they're just not, if the conversation is forced or they're not really, as engaged in what you're saying, or somebody's texting back a little slower than you are reaching out, and little things like that. There really is no talk about when there's a next time to see someone, or when can we do this again. Like it's like, oh, thanks, this was really nice. You take care now type of energy. And for someone that might be so determined to forge a connection as the Knight of Cups might be, it could really be a bruise to the feelings, honestly, to not have that reciprocated and it be so blatantly obvious that there's no reciprocation. The feeling is not mutual, So that's in the best case scenario where somebody's just humbly, honestly, sincerely extending themselves, with no ill intent. But to actually have someone that is trying to manipulate a situation, manipulate a connection, that's even more cause for feelings to get bruised, and probably egos too in that case. So depending on the type of energy that's prominent, maybe someone might not be so easily bruised and emotionally where your feelings are hurt, but your ego could be bruised, or it could mess with your mind if you're more cerebral, or it could have an effect on your productivity if you're more earthy, you know, so it could backfire in a different ways. It doesn't have to be water based or water influenced, but either way, with that Five of Pentacles, there will be a hit that is evident. And to me, like it has a physical or material resonance, you know. So it could be all of the above of what I just said in some way, shape, or form. So anyway, I guess more or less, word to the wise, don't be out here trying to finesse people that you're really not all that interested in, trying to manipulate, you know, for ulterior motives. Good people, pure intended people, that just, you know, is the potential gain from it is not even, first of all, you probably won't get what you're looking for, but then what you may glean from it won't even be worth the backfire of it all to your psyche, your soul, your spirit, your wallet, your mental, your mind, you know, your self-esteem, whatever the backlash may be, it won't be worth it. It really won't. And for those that may be on the other side, the receiving end of propositions and proposals, just, you know, choose with your mind, your spirit, mind, and body, you know, not just letting your heart lead into an abyss, but really considering all angles of whatever is being proposed, whether it's professional, platonic, or romantic at this time. Because with the Knight of Cups, people can be very convincing, and they could be, you know, working quite diligently on a proposition or a way to present themselves that is quite tempting, pardon me, or that pulls on a side of you that either has been lying dormant for a long time, or that maybe you left behind a long time ago, you know, that's not really hasn't been as active as it used to be. Some more in the sentimental type of space where you may not even be so sentimental, like the Queen of Wands isn't really, you know, it's not so sentimental with her, you know, but the right or wrong person could trigger that vulnerability in a way that would be beneficial for them, but could be a detriment to you, whomever, however it applies. So just be careful out there. I don't know why. People, I just feel like there's a desperation in the air right now. Like I said, it's not all diabolical everywhere. Like, some people are just really desperate to connect with something real, you know, but as it was depicted in the cards, just because there's a deep desire for pure connection doesn't mean that somebody is willing to give as much as they're looking to take or they're expecting to take. You know, some people just don't have it to give, even if they wanted to. You know, they've done too much and been through too much. They've exhausted their emotional energy in so many different ways at this point that what they do have, they really need to, back to the priorities of the homeless man, really need to conserve for themselves to get grounded, you know, and find balance within their own life. But some people are reaching out just desperate to have some supplement of what they feel deficient in right now, and to have it, you know, as quickly as possible for the purposes of survival, and in some cases, you know, for relief, you know. So just don't be that girl or don't be that guy. Don't be somebody's relief unjustifiably. cream truck. Woo, look at that. 5 of Swords. Okay. Don't be so... Oh, man. Some people... I heard sleeping with the enemy. So this isn't just about new proposals and propositions. This is also about examining who's in your force field and your energetic force field now. Friends, family, partners, potential partners, co-workers, neighbors, you know, like whomever, however you need to consider, you know, the effects of that connection. Wouldn't be doing too much. It wouldn't be overthinking. It wouldn't be being too sensitive. None of that. As I said with the Queen of Wands, like that's a protective queen. She knows how to protect her energy. She also knows how to protect her space, and more or less that usually extends to anyone that rightfully occupies that space. But again, up to her observance and decision as to who does, you know, because even that's a privilege. So 5 of Swords says that there could be energies in your space that don't mean well, or that there is a need to continue to keep your defenses up, or just keep your boundaries strong and healthy, because, you know, people are still up to no good, or there are energies that still are just out for themselves. Like, yeah, that's what the 5 of Swords is. It's like a win at all cost type of energy. So like I said, it could be as dark as someone literally trying to bring you down to pull themselves up, or it could just be someone yearning for relief, or yearning for connection or salvation from, you know, whatever trial and tribulation they're encountering. And they may not necessarily even mean to bring anybody down, but because of what's going on in their life at the time, it can be infectious, you know, and it could, 5 of Pentacles as well, like it could literally be contagious in a way, to entangle yourself with someone that is, you know, going through some growing pains. You know, they could hurt you in ways that they don't mean to, and then they could hurt you in ways that they absolutely mean to. Or just be you being just an innocent bystander, catch a stray on some karmic, you know, some karmic debt or karmic backfire that's not even meant for you, you know. And there's so many ways that I could speak about that 9 of Swords. Yeah, exactly. Man, I want to, like, I literally, maybe I should, like, how that could look. Yeah, it's like entangling yourself with someone who doesn't have, you know, they're not grounded with themselves, so they, you know, that lack of that bruise in their self-esteem spills out as, you know, as abusive energy towards you in some way, shape, or form, whether it be things that they say or how they treat you, lying, cheating, stealing. All of that could be five of Swords energy, more 7 of Swords, but it could be in there too with the 5 of Swords. Subtly, again, or things that, like I said, don't seem intentional, or maybe aren't, you know, but somebody's floundering to keep themselves above water, so they kind of drag you in with them or something like that. You know, it could be, you know, people saying nasty things to you to bring your day down and your self-esteem down because they're not having a good day. You know, even little stuff like that could have an effect on you, when here you are just trying to be a friend, or trying to be a good partner, a good lover, a good daughter, a good a good brother, a good sister, you know, a good cousin, whatever the hell, and you caught in a crossfire, you know. Queen of, sorry, the High Priestess. I almost said the Queen of Swords, though. I don't know why. I don't know why, but that definitely gives light. Probably because I was thinking as I was shuffling, like sometimes the hard thing to do is to really separate yourself from things that are just not in alignment with you. And with it being no shade to whomever or whatever you forge a separation between, but it may, this is the High Priestess, like someone that does set themselves apart and has strong boundaries and, you know, high standards and moral and ethical practices, and maybe not in a religious sense, but just really values their spiritual wellness, you know, maybe even their peace of mind and their energetic well-being in a very high, like in a high frequency way, you know, like in a way, like in a superior or supreme type of way. Again, not, as I said earlier, it's no shade to the homeless man that just needs some love. Homeless man need love too, you know. Homeless woman needs love too. But when it comes down to what is of value to you, where you are in this moment, that's a different boundary, you know, than just wanting to have a heart of gold or wanting to help someone, you know, knowing that you have the resources to do so. You know what I mean? Like knowing that you could take someone in, homeless or no, this could be either any of it. But I'm just harping on this homeless example to really drive the point, you know, because for some of us that is the nature of the disparity between energies that want to kind of insert themselves into our force field, and where we have cultivated that force field at this time. There is a great void, you know, and where some people are mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, you know, and where we have grown to be or evolved to be. But you might have the resources, and in the homeless case, to take somebody in, to give them new clothes, to feed them, you know, maybe even help them get a job, perhaps. You know, you might have the time and the resources and the heart to do all that, and it might work out. It just might. Chances are, though, that person wasn't quite ready. You know, you could clean somebody up, you know, with your own efforts, but there's a high chance that somebody that's in a position such as that is either going to have some great emotional damage or baggage that they still need to sort out, no matter how well you dress them up, or they're not quite ready to be self-sufficient, even with having a little leg up to do so. There could be like a mental challenge or something like that you can't quite see, of which no matter how many resources or how big of a heart you have, you couldn't fix for them. So in this case, you know, this could be someone that has the capacity, like this is like Mother Teresa type of energy, the High Priestess, kind of, because, you know, they say things about Mother Teresa, no shade, no shade to the dead, but they say things, you know. the idea, the perception of somebody that just wants to help and heal and love, you know, you may have all of those resources and so much of a surplus that you got enough for the whole nation, but everybody within that nation is not going to receive that gift that you have to offer, and first of all actually do something good with it on the other end. and or be in a position to either pay it forward once they do receive it, or to reciprocate it in the best way that they possibly can. A lot of people that are out here looking to get as much as they can get have no intentions of returning the favor. You know, that's just what it is. That's just what it is. And it's the high priestess because it's no shade to what is ultimately a mindset of survival. When you look around at how society is, it's compelling humanity to go into that mode, unfortunately. You know, it's just a human response. But the high priestess knows better, you know, knows how to craft her benevolence, her charity in a way that is most beneficial for the greatest good of all, while still preserving herself in that process. And that's masculine or feminine in this case. And sometimes, back to the Queen of Swords, that comes by way of slinging that iron, you know, on things that you can already see either are in this energy of the Five of Swords, whether they mean to be or not, or have the potential to be, as far as you're concerned. Not anybody else, with no pity or regret or shame about it. Even if you have it to give, sometimes, as the Queen of Swords is, you have to be so objective to make the tough decisions that ultimately keep you most secure and protected. You know, otherwise you could be depleted to have nothing to offer those that actually need it, or to the things that actually will create change and relief and resources for those that are truly worthy of it. You know, or even depleting yourself of what you need to keep going, you know, to keep being a light in a certain type of way, to keep harboring the intentions to do good is more like incubating that pure sense of benevolence, that pure spirit of benevolence is more impo I was gonna say impotent. I was trying to say important and potent at the same time. Like, it's more impressionable and impactful than what you actually put your hands to, you know? Because not everybody is holding that in their heart space. Most people are too fixated on how to hold on to what they have, most of which doesn't even matter, or to get more of what someone else has had, what someone else has to offer, to again hoard for themselves. So if the few, the faithful few, not because there aren't plenty of us that are holding that frequency, but there just may be more of the adverse, you know, which is why I say the faithful few have a great responsibility to hold that charge, so that can be the empowering force, you know, hopefully can be the impression and the influence for this energy, this survival mode, to kind of like turn on itself, or to be to be sanctified, is what I hear. Yeah, look at that page of Ace of Pentacles. Let's see what else. That's the gift. That's the gift right there. That's the what do you call it? Like divine provision. What do I usually say with the Ace of Pentacles? Supernatural provision? I can't think of the word. Hold on, I need some water. Well, it's the provision that not everyone else is postured to receive. It's like the capital to create in the ways that I was just speaking of, like to keep going, like to keep being that person that you are. It's like an offering from the divine unto those in the material realm that would do well with it, that would invest it wisely: time, energy, attention, actual money and resources, gifts, talents, ideas, like all of that is wrapped in the Ace of Pentacles, like this provision from like manna from heaven, in these dire times where it seems like all hope is lost, but this is still raining down, like this is still raining down or raining in, or being rained in, conducted through beings that have the intention and the will to to do so. As I said, to kind of almost like filter, how can I say, like disseminate or disperse, there it is, disperse these frequencies through whatever it is that they're doing, whether it's through your business, through your craft, through your art, however it is that you express yourself. These are the channels. This is why it's so important to kind of preserve yourself in a way, because the Ace of Pentacles can't really get through if your channel is compromised with a whole bunch of energies on the line and in your force field that are just pretty much waiting to swipe this before it reaches you, or to glean, or to siphon it from you as soon as you touch it, or to manipulate you out of it, as soon as you possess it for their own purposes. Like that will stop this flow immediately, and again puts you in like a and like ties your hands from truly being effective in the world, however you are, just on account of what intrusions you're allowing to persist. So this would be this right here, like missing out on this, as I was saying before, like this is the great, to sacrifice yourself for the sake of being nice or being likable or whatever the case may be, and miss out on this grand opportunity to conduct this frequency of fortune. That's what it is. A high frequency of fortune in the world would be a tragedy, not just for whomever is missing the opportunity, but for all those that are connected and are assigned to be beneficiaries of it. Not the ones that impose themselves to be, but the ones that actually are assigned and determined to be. So if you feel like, if you feel bad about, again, wielding that sword or creating boundaries or saying no or disconnecting or breaking up or cutting off, or whatever it is that you feel guided to do to kind of keep yourself in a sacred protective space, a preserved space, if you ever feel bad about it, just return to this ideal of what the greater good truly is. That if you don't do that, then you can't serve in this way. You can't serve yourself and you can't serve anyone else. And someone else that's on the other end of this assignment, that's aligned to glean from whatever it is you're conducting in this world, is the one that actually deserves it. And imagine disappointing them on account of helping someone that is like, imagine you you go ahead and you give that homeless man a chance, and you bring him in, you clean him up, you know, help him get on his feet, you feed him 3 meals a day, y'all, you pay for all the dates every time y'all go out. Like you elevate his whole life. And then once he's right up on his feet, he decides that this is no longer the place he wants to be. He finds something else or someone else that he'd rather explore, or he just needs to still go explore himself internally, whatever the case may be. Now, you done given all that you could, all your time and energy to that connection, and one day you're walking down the street and you're so distraught and distracted by the great loss that you've incurred, that you actually miss, you know, what could be the proposition of a love of a life, you know, reaching out to you, because you're too bitter, you know, and too distraught. Like, oh no, like I don't even want to, you know, no thank you, I'm not interested. And that was just the love of your life that was trying to get your attention, you know, the one you really were supposed to give all of yourself to, you know. But you can't even see that, because you've been depleted too much at this point in time. Imagine that. And now, on account of you not having that connection with the so-called love of your life, at least at that point, you missed the window of opportunity for y'all to have children together and continue the legacy that you were meant to bring into this world. A legacy of children that perhaps were meant to do certain things in this world that could pioneer you know, evolution for the next generation in a very special way, you know. So it's like, not even you didn't just miss the love of your life. Now the children that you never had don't get to have the life that they were so-called destined to have, and the people that were supposed to be touched by their presence don't get to have, are robbed of that encounter too, all because you wanted to feel like Mother Teresa and save the homeless man. You know what I mean? Like, I know that sounds a little bit ridiculous when I put it like that, but I'm just saying, I know you feel me if you feel me. So I'm just saying, like, if you ever feel like, you know, you're not doing the right thing by taking care of yourself in ways that may be contrary to what other people understand, or what they request, or what they would or what they can accept. There's a bigger picture here. There's a much bigger picture here, and you have a big part in it. Wow, look at that. There's the 7 of Pentacles that I talked up. All right, one more, and then we're going to close it out. I don't even need to really get into that, because that is the intention: to steal, to lie, to cheat, to deceive, to get away with something. Wow, to get away with your love. Oh my gosh. That's it. Everything so I guess it wasn't all that silly after all. All the energy and love and intention that you could have to pour into something, someone, someplace. This is the lowest frequency of them all. As I said in the very beginning, that would just be willing to get as much as they can and literally leave you high and dry. Nope, it wouldn't be worth it. You feeling bad about breaking up with that person because y'all been together for years, and you know they're going through a hard time right now. Wouldn't be a good time to leave. Man, listen. If you've been feeling that nudge to put in your notice to that job, but you know that they're really hard up for people right now, and it would leave a gaping hole in and the workload or whatever, man, listen. Better get on up out of there. If you know you've been around this group of people, so-called friends, and your energy just is never quite right there, and it's even more off after the fact, but y'all been friends for years, or y'all have so much in common, and you know you're the glue of the squad, or like everybody is connected because of you. Man, you better get up out of there. You better get up out of there, because now is not the time to I don't even know how to say it. It's just not the time to be a martyr. It's not the time to sacrifice yourself for the greatest good of those that don't have the capacity to hold your greatest good in high regard. And usually they've already shown it. Like I said, some not meaning to, but there's just an imbalance or a mismatch in the reciprocity and the giving and the taking. Maybe you giving a little more than receiving. And they don't mean no harm, but it's just the dynamic that's always been, or how you've allowed things to be. But then there are some, or this could be the evolution of that, now growing into something that is very intentional to strip you, to suck you dry, to leave you depleted and in despair, or just leave you in a place, or not even leave you, but to just continue to siphon from your presence and your energy in a way that actually they rather you be quite close, because there's a greater proximity and access to all that you have to offer, but it has no positive result or reward or return for you. I forget to say that part. I kind of did in the examples of whether relationships that maybe have expired, or friendships and so on and so forth. So it's there, but it's not even necessarily the leaving part. For some, it's actually, as in the very beginning of this message, the connection itself that is precious to some, but not precious enough to value in the regard and to care for in the regard that it truly deserves. And in this case, there's no difference between, really, the sword is the truth. It just cuts straight and dry. There's no difference between those that do it unintentionally and that do it on purpose. It's the same impact and the same effect either way. And the only person that has the final say as to how that persists or doesn't is whomever resonates with this high priestess energy that I'm speaking of, where you just really want to be your best self and do your best work and have your best life. And that's not a selfish thing, because you doing that is an offering to others. But it can't be if there's still energy that's stealing out of your collection plate, so to speak. Wow, with the star. Oh my gosh. Yeah, here's the sharing here, the community sharing, the Six of Pentacles. Like, whatever you're doing, it's important, but it has to be coveted. And sometimes for some of us that have any idea of having something special to offer, even just in our intentions to create for the greatest good, to do with ourselves, with our gifts, with our talents, with our visions, something that could positively benefit someone else. Sometimes it's hard to really how can I say, like, to really, like, incubate yourself, or that's not the word though. reverence. There it is. Like to really reverence yourself. I'm gonna look for another word than reverence. Because it feels blasphemous. It feels like you're doing too much, or you think too highly of yourself, or you adore. Wow, yeah, admire, adore, admiration, adoration, devotion, esteem, loyalty, respect, all of that stuff. Like sometimes you feel like you don't deserve all that, like you can get in the spirit to almost like humble yourself to the point of of devaluation, in a sense. Like we do that and we think it's piety, but really it's just pitiful, because the divine can't really get the glory and the full affluence out of those that don't really see that within themselves. It's not the full projection of it, this heavenly provision, so to speak, that is being projected through you, that's being pronounced here in this star energy through the things that you create in the uniqueness of your identity. It doesn't help anybody to dumb it down, pretty much. And it definitely doesn't help anybody to give it away in ways or to people or to things or to places that don't know what to do with it, or that don't do anything well with it. This is the example with the Six of Pentacles of those that are aligned, and assigned to your benevolence in one way, shape, or form, or to be in connection with you in a way where this card means can ultimately turn the tables, and in this energy, the Six of Pentacles is about affecting those that ultimately can have the energy and the will to pull themselves up by way of the leg up that's given, or the inspiration that they glean. They look a little bit in despair too, but the difference between the Six of Pentacles here and the Five of Pentacles, like I was saying, is this is an evolved state of reception, where these people aren't just looking for a handout or to take whatever they can get and scurry along. This might just be someone that was just like you at a time, that just needs a little help, somebody that believes in them, an encouraging word, maybe even a monetary investment, but they have visions of their own, they have ideas of their own, they have good intentions of their own. That's a different energy than just looking to take. This is ultimately being in a position to inspire the star power within others that are willing and able to actually expel it. Not everybody is on that, and not everybody that's in need is deceptive. So again, it all comes back to being discerning and being obedient to what your spirit ultimately says is your assignment for yourself and for those that you encounter. That's just the comes along with the territory of star powered energies in this world. Can't get around it. And why would you want to, really? There's far more perks of being a star, and I ain't talking about celebrity, I'm talking about a star, than in this earth than there are not to be. If that wasn't the case, we wouldn't have the false light of stardom through celebrity that we have, which is, societally coveted, but we know that that's fleeting and it's fainting. But this energy is internal and it's eternal. And it's not something that can be denounced, really, except by your own, defect to energy such as this 5 and 7 of swords, where now you use your privilege and your power to take advantage of others. But a true star is not really going to do that. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, as always, I leave you with peace.